Success and money are not rewards that randomly fall into the hands of a lucky few. They are the direct results of a disciplined mind and a controlled emotional state. Most people chase them as if they are something external, something to be hunted or captured. But the truth is that success and money are reflections of inner mastery. The market, the business world, or any competitive environment you step into will always mirror your internal world. If your thoughts are driven by fear, hesitation, or the need to prove something, the results will expose that. But if your thoughts are rooted in confidence, consistency, and self-control, you'll find that success starts to follow you naturally, almost effortlessly. Winning success and money isn't about force, it's about alignment. It's about learning to play the inner game so well that the outer rewards become inevitable. The reason so many fail is because they enter the game with the wrong mindset. They want immediate results. They want to control the outcome rather than mastering the process. They become emotional when the environment doesn't respond to their expectations, and that emotion blinds them. The key to winning is emotional neutrality, the ability to observe opportunities without attachment, to act with clarity, and to let go of the need to be right. When you stop fighting the flow and start understanding it, you begin to see that the market, the world, and money itself are not your enemies. They are teachers, constantly showing you where your beliefs, fears, and limitations exist. Every setback is not punishment, it's feedback. It tells you what needs to change inside before you can expand outside. Success isn't built in moments of excitement, it's built in moments of control. When the pressure rises, when the noise gets loud, when things seem uncertain, that's when real players are separated from the rest. Those who have trained their minds to stay calm, focused, and decisive are the ones who thrive. They don't react emotionally to temporary circumstances because they understand that emotions are illusions of the present, not reflections of long-term truth. The mind that can remain steady while others panic holds a power that money naturally gravitates toward. Winning success and money is less about competition with others and more about mastery over yourself. The real victory is when you no longer need to chase results because you have become the kind of person results are drawn to. When you stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on your process, your patterns, your discipline, everything begins to change. You realize that the game isn't played in the external world, it's played within your thoughts, your beliefs, your responses. And once you master that inner landscape, money, success, and opportunities start flowing in ways that once seemed impossible. The game is always mental, and the one who controls the mind always wins. Success and money are not external prizes waiting to be discovered. They are reflections of your internal world, your mindset, and the level of control you maintain over your emotions and actions. Most people spend their entire lives chasing success as if it is something separate from them, something that must be earned through sheer effort, luck, or timing. But the truth is deeper and far more powerful. Success and money flow naturally to those who have achieved inner mastery. When your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors align with clarity, consistency, and self-discipline, success becomes a natural consequence rather than a distant goal. The world mirrors what exists within you. If you are chaotic, unsure, or emotionally reactive, your external circumstances will reflect that instability. If you are calm, focused, and confident in your process, your reality will begin to organize itself around those internal states. People often misunderstand the real source of success because they measure it through visible results, income, recognition, achievements. But these are only the surface reflections of an invisible foundation. The foundation is built in your mind. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, every risk you take is guided by your mental structure. A person who has not yet mastered themselves will always be controlled by external conditions. They will succeed temporarily when things go well and collapse when things don't. The one who has achieved inner mastery, however, does not depend on favorable circumstances. They create favorable outcomes by maintaining inner balance. The power lies not in what happens, but in how you respond to what happens. The reason this concept is difficult for most people to accept is that it challenges the idea of luck and external dependence. It removes excuses. It means that if your results are inconsistent, it's not the fault of the market, the system, or other people. It's a reflection of your own internal inconsistency. That truth can be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating because it gives you control. Once you understand that your reality is a mirror of your mindset, you no longer waste energy trying to fix the outside world. You begin the real work, fixing your thoughts, beliefs, and emotional patterns. Every moment of fear, greed, doubt, or hesitation becomes a signal showing you where inner work is needed. Success and money simply amplify what already exists inside you. If your inner world is filled with clarity and confidence, those qualities expand in a visible form. Inner mastery begins with self-awareness. You must observe how you think, how you react under pressure, how you handle losses, and how you treat wins. Do you chase after quick results because you fear missing out? Do you hold on to losing decisions because your ego can't accept being wrong? Do you act out of clarity or emotional impulse? These questions define whether you are leading your life or being led by it. True mastery requires the ability to detach from emotional impulses that cloud rational decision making. Success and money favor those who are emotionally balanced because balance produces consistency and consistency produces compounding results. You cannot fake inner mastery. It reveals itself through your behavior. The moment you allow fear to drive your decisions, you start operating from weakness, and weakness attracts loss. The moment you act from greed, you lose clarity, and greed blinds you from seeing reality as it is. But when you train your mind to stay calm under pressure, to observe rather than react, to act based on plan instead of emotion, you create an energy that draws success toward you. You stop forcing outcomes and start aligning with them. The universe operates on order, and when your inner world is ordered, opportunities naturally flow towards you. This is not magic or chance, it's cause and effect. The mastery of the inner world also involves patience and trust in your process. You cannot demand instant rewards from life without first proving your ability to handle delayed gratification. Success and money move toward those who can wait without losing focus. The mind that can remain still in uncertainty is far stronger than the mind that demands immediate validation. The paradox is that when you stop obsessing over results and begin focusing on developing the mental qualities that produce them, the results start to appear effortlessly. Inner mastery builds invisible momentum. Every small act of discipline, every decision made from clarity rather than fear adds strength to your foundation. Over time, that foundation becomes so powerful that success becomes inevitable. It is also important to understand that success and money test your mastery as much as they reward it. Many people lose what they gain because they achieve external success without internal stability. They reach the top with an untrained mind, and when pressure rises, they crumble. Sustaining success requires the same mental structure that creates it. That is why the inner game is never finished. It's a continuous process of refinement. You must constantly observe your thoughts, challenge your fears, and adjust your beliefs to stay aligned with growth. Inner mastery is not built through books or external advice alone. It's built through experience and awareness. Every failure, every challenge, every loss you face offers the opportunity to observe your inner reactions. Instead of seeing difficulty as punishment, view it as training for the mind. The moments that frustrate you the most are the moments that teach you the most. They show you where your attachment lies, where your ego interferes, and where your fear controls you. When you begin to see life this way, you stop fighting circumstances and start learning from them. Every experience becomes a mirror reflecting how far you've come and how much mastery you've achieved. When you reach the point where external situations no longer disturb your inner state, you begin to attract abundance naturally. Money, success, and recognition become side effects of the calm, confident, and disciplined energy you project. People trust and follow those who exude stability and clarity. Markets reward those who act without emotional distortion. Life opens up for those who have mastered themselves. Success and money do not come because of effort alone. They come because of alignment. The alignment between your internal world and your external actions. When the two become one, the flow of results becomes inevitable. Emotional control is the invisible foundation of consistent success, and without it, even the most intelligent or talented individuals eventually lose their way. The ability to manage one's emotions determines not only the quality of decisions made, but also the stability of one's progress. In every field where performance is tied to uncertainty, business, trading, leadership, or personal growth, emotions are the unseen forces that either create clarity or chaos. When you let emotions control your behavior, you surrender your power to the external world. But when you master emotional control, you gain access to a level of awareness and decision making that separates you from the crowd. The majority of people react emotionally to every rise and fall in their circumstances. They allow fear to paralyze them, greed to blind them, and frustration to distort their vision. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings, it's about recognizing them without being ruled by them. When you learn to stay calm when everything around you seems unstable, you are no longer influenced by short-term fluctuations. You begin to see patterns, behaviors, and outcomes that others miss because they are too emotionally involved. Success doesn't come to those who know the most, it comes to those who can stay centered when others are losing their balance. The emotional game is always more difficult than the technical one because it requires confronting your own impulses. Most people are trapped in the cycle of reaction, reacting to losses, reacting to wins, reacting to opinions. Each reaction weakens focus and replaces logic with impulse. True mastery comes when you can observe your emotions without identifying with them. The moment you stop fighting emotions and start understanding them, you gain control over your choices. In moments of fear, the untrained mind seeks escape while the trained mind seeks information. In moments of excitement, the untrained mind rushes while the trained mind pauses to confirm. These subtle differences create massive differences in outcomes over time. Emotional control allows you to maintain consistency, and consistency creates compounding success. Every time you resist an emotional reaction, you strengthen your mental muscle. You teach your mind to prioritize clarity over chaos. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally intelligent. The ability to recognize what you feel, why you feel, and what that feeling is trying to make you do. Most failures are not caused by lack of knowledge, but by lack of discipline to control impulses when emotions are high. The world rewards those who can think clearly under pressure. In moments of volatility, uncertainty, or conflict, emotions rise quickly, and that's when emotional discipline becomes your greatest advantage. Anyone can remain calm when things go smoothly, but few can remain composed when things fall apart. That composure is what determines the quality of your judgment. Emotional control doesn't mean you never feel fear or excitement. It means those emotions don't dictate your actions. You can feel fear but still take a rational step. You can feel excitement but still wait for confirmation. You can experience loss but still remain confident in your long-term process. The ability to separate what you feel from what you do is the key that transforms chaos into strategy. Every successful person has faced moments where emotions could have taken control. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail lies in their response to those moments. Some panic and make impulsive choices while others breathe, observe, and act with patience. Emotional control gives you time. The time to think, to plan, to choose the best course of action. It's that pause between stimulus and response where mastery is found. Once you learn to create that space, your decision making becomes intentional rather than reactive. You begin to operate from awareness rather than emotion. Emotional control is also deeply connected to self-trust. When you trust yourself and your process, you don't need external validation to feel secure. Fear arises when you doubt your preparation. Greed arises when you doubt your sufficiency. Both are signals of inner imbalance. By cultivating emotional control, you begin to silence those doubts. You no longer depend on results to feel confident. You become confident because your actions are aligned with discipline. That inner stability builds resilience. Challenges no longer feel like threats. They become opportunities to test and strengthen your control. Every obstacle becomes part of your training, sharpening your awareness and deepening your mastery. The emotional mind thrives on extremes, excessive optimism during success and excessive despair during loss. Emotional control neutralizes these extremes, allowing you to see reality as it is, not as your emotions color it. The calm mind sees truth, while the emotional mind sees distortion. In trading, for example, emotional control allows you to follow your plan rather than chase the market. In leadership, it allows you to guide others through uncertainty rather than being pulled into panic. In life, it allows you to remain at peace regardless of external turbulence. The external world is unpredictable. The only true stability comes from the inner world. Emotional control is the bridge between chaos and clarity. Developing emotional control requires awareness and repetition. You cannot master emotions by thinking about them once. You must train daily. Each time you face a challenging situation, you are given an opportunity to practice control. Observe what triggers you, what patterns repeat, what reactions keep costing you progress. The more awareness you bring to these moments, the faster you weaken emotional conditioning. Over time, what once caused panic will barely move you. You begin to operate with a quiet confidence, grounded in awareness rather than emotion. This is the point where success becomes sustainable because your behavior no longer fluctuates with circumstances. It's important to understand that emotional control doesn't develop in comfort, it develops in difficulty. Every time you remain calm when you could have panicked, every time you choose discipline over impulse, you grow stronger. Emotional mastery is built through challenges that force you to confront your inner instability. You learn that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of acting on them can be permanent. Once this truth becomes part of your awareness, you stop letting emotions dictate your future. You respond with reason, patience, and precision no matter what unfolds. When you reach the stage where emotions no longer control you, you become dangerous in the best way. You can operate in chaos without losing direction. You can face loss without fear and success without arrogance. Your focus becomes steady, your judgment sharp, and your performance consistent. People around you begin to notice that nothing shakes you easily because your center is strong. That stability attracts trust, respect, and opportunity. Emotional control becomes your greatest asset because it creates the foundation for every other form of mastery. When your emotions serve your purpose instead of controlling it, your growth becomes unstoppable and consistency becomes your natural state. Focusing on the process instead of the immediate outcome is one of the most powerful disciplines that separates those who succeed consistently from those who achieve success only once. The human mind is naturally drawn toward results because it craves validation, recognition, and closure. It wants to see evidence of progress, something tangible that proves the effort is worth it. But the pursuit of outcomes too early often leads to frustration, inconsistency, and emotional instability. The process, on the other hand, is where true transformation happens. The process is where habits are shaped, skills are refined, and emotional strength is developed. When you shift your focus from the outcome to the process, you begin to detach from the need for immediate gratification and align yourself with the timeless rhythm of mastery. Every consistent performer in any field operates from a process-driven mindset because they understand that outcomes are the natural results of disciplined repetition, not desperate chasing. When you focus too much on the result, you create unnecessary pressure. That pressure triggers fear and impatience, which distort judgment and lead to mistakes. The process is calm, structured, and measurable. It gives you control over what you can do right now without worrying about what might happen next. Success and failure both lose their emotional charge when you are process-oriented because your identity is no longer tied to results but to your commitment to doing the work. When your self-worth is based on effort rather than achievement, you gain freedom. You stop reacting to short-term fluctuations and start building something permanent. This is the mindset of the professional versus the amateur. The amateur lives for results, the professional lives for refinement. The process is not glamorous. It's repetitive, often boring, and filled with small details that don't seem to matter in the moment. But those details compound quietly in the background. Every day of consistent focus adds invisible layers of skill, patience, and confidence. The ones who can endure the slow grind without losing focus are the ones who eventually separate from the crowd. The impatient mind wants shortcuts. It wants to skip the waiting and jump straight to the reward. But every shortcut steals experience, and experience is what builds the foundation that can hold long-term success. Without process, results are temporary. With process, results become inevitable. Learning to trust the process means learning to accept uncertainty. You don't always know when progress will show, but you keep moving forward because you believe in the structure you've built. This is the essence of discipline. Showing up every day even when motivation fades. Motivation is emotional, but process is mechanical. The process doesn't care how you feel. It only requires that you stay consistent. When you remove emotion from effort, your growth becomes predictable. The process is your anchor when results fluctuate. Some days you will feel like you're winning, other days it may seem like nothing is working. The process reminds you that both are illusions. What matters is consistency. Those who fixate on the outcome often sabotage themselves. When you're obsessed with results, you tend to overact to setbacks. A single loss feels like failure, and a single win feels like invincibility. Both extremes create imbalance. The process-centered person, however, stays neutral. They evaluate feedback objectively. A loss becomes information, not punishment. A win becomes confirmation, not validation. This neutrality is what builds longevity. You can't sustain growth if you're emotionally swinging between highs and lows. The process protects you from those swings by keeping you focused on what's within your control, your actions, your mindset, your consistency. In trading, in business, in sports, or in any pursuit of excellence, the ones who endure are not those who chase the biggest wins, but those who execute their plan with precision regardless of the outcome. They don't get distracted by noise because their focus is internal. They understand that success is not a single event but a pattern repeated over time. The process gives structure to uncertainty. It provides direction when results are unpredictable. Without a process, every challenge feels personal. With a process, every challenge becomes part of the system. This difference in perception defines who survives the test of time. Focusing on the process also helps dissolve fear because fear lives in the future. When your mind is occupied with what might happen, it loses connection with what is happening right now. The process brings you back to the present. It anchors your attention in actions you can take rather than outcomes you can't control. The more you focus on executing the present step, the less power fear has over you. This presence sharpens awareness and improves decision-making. When you're fully engaged in the process, you stop judging yourself by temporary results and start measuring progress by discipline and precision. That is the shift from external validation to internal mastery. Another advantage of focusing on the process is that it builds resilience. The process doesn't guarantee constant success, but it guarantees growth. Every mistake mistake becomes part of the data that refines your system. Every failure becomes feedback that strengthens your next move. When your goal is to improve the process, not just reach the destination, failure loses its sting. It becomes part of the cycle of refinement. This mindset prevents burnout because you are no longer emotionally drained by outcomes you can't control. You find satisfaction in effort itself. That satisfaction sustains you when results are delayed, and it gives you energy to keep going long after others have quit. When you are process-driven, you begin to see how success compounds silently. The small, consistent actions that seem insignificant in isolation eventually create massive shifts. It's like planting seeds. You can't dig them up every day to check if they're growing. You trust the soil, the sunlight, the water, and time. The process works the same way. You plan effort daily, nurture it with patience, and trust that the results will appear when the conditions are right. The ones who fail are often the ones who stop too early, not realizing that growth was already happening beneath the surface. The process teaches patience, and patience is one of the greatest allies of success. When your identity becomes tied to the process rather than the outcome, you gain emotional freedom. You no longer fear loss because your confidence is built on something internal, your ability to stay disciplined. You no longer crave constant validation because you trust your structure. The result becomes a byproduct rather than a goal. You understand that your only real competition is your own consistency. The question is no longer, did I win, but did I follow my plan? That shift in focus changes everything. It transforms effort from a chase into a practice. The process becomes its own reward, and success becomes a natural extension of who you are becoming. The truth is that results are temporary, but the process is permanent. The process stays with you, evolves with you, and continues to create new results even when circumstances change. The outcome is the fruit, but the process is the root. If you nurture the root, the fruit will always grow. If you neglect the root, no amount of wishing can bring the result back. When you live through the process, you move from chasing success to embodying it. Success stops being something you pursue and starts being something you express through your daily actions. The real competition in life has never been with other people. It has always been with your own mindset. The moment you understand this truth, the game of success changes completely. Most people waste their time comparing themselves to others, watching their progress, their achievements, their lifestyle, without realizing that external competition is an illusion. You are not losing to anyone else. You are losing to your own doubts, fears, distractions, and lack of discipline. The true battle is internal. The outer world simply reflects the strength or weakness of your inner world. Every challenge you face, every obstacle in your path, is not there to stop you, but to reveal the level of control you have over your own mind. The stronger your mindset, the less power the outside world has over you. The weaker your mindset, the more everything feels like a threat. Success begins the moment you stop trying to outperform others and start trying to outperform the person you were yesterday. When you compete with others, you limit yourself to their level. You measure your success against someone else's timeline, goals, and advantages. But when you compete with your own mindset, there are no limits. You are no longer driven by comparison, you are driven by evolution. Each day becomes an opportunity to break an old pattern, to challenge a belief that no longer serves you, to improve your discipline, and to strengthen your focus. This is how true transformation happens, not through rivalry, but through self-mastery. Competing with yourself forces you to confront your weaknesses honestly. It removes the illusion of external blame and replaces it with responsibility. You begin to realize that no one else is responsible for your results. No competitor, no market condition, no environment determines your success more than the state of your own thoughts. The inner competition is far more demanding than any external one because it requires honesty. It requires you to face your excuses, your insecurity, your comfort zone. Most people avoid this internal confrontation because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to blame circumstances than to admit that your mindset still needs work. But those who embrace this challenge gain a level of clarity that few ever experience. They stop being reactive to life and start being creators of it. When your focus shifts inward, you stop wasting energy on what others are doing. You begin to invest that energy into refining your thinking, controlling your emotions, and mastering your process. The mind that no longer compares is the mind that becomes free. Every person you see succeeding at a high level has gone through this invisible battle. They learned that progress only happens when you stop measuring yourself against external outcomes and start measuring yourself against internal growth. The question is no longer, who is ahead of me, but am I improving? When you think like this, every failure becomes valuable because it teaches you something about your mental framework. Every challenge becomes a mirror reflecting your inner patterns. You stop being intimidated by obstacles because you recognize them as opportunities to strengthen your mindset. The world outside you is neutral. It only takes shape according to how you interpret and respond to it. The stronger your inner state, the more powerful you influence the outer one. Competing with your mindset also means learning to control your inner dialogue. The thoughts you repeat daily create the emotional tone of your life. If those thoughts are filled with doubt, fear, and limitation, you will unconsciously sabotage your potential. But if your thoughts are focused on growth, confidence, and resilience, you begin to move differently. You act with conviction instead of hesitation. You see possibilities where others see problems. Your perception shapes your decisions, and your decisions shape your outcomes. By mastering your mindset, you control that entire chain of creation. You become your own source of motivation, your own benchmark, your own competition. The mind naturally resists discipline because discipline exposes its limitations. Every time you try to push past a mental barrier, your mind will resist with excuses, distractions, or fear. That's where the competition is fought. The moment you feel that resistance, you are in the arena. If you push through it, you win. If you give in, you lose. This has nothing to do with anyone else. The strongest people are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who act despite it. Every act of discipline strengthens the belief that you are in control. Every moment of weakness surrendered to emotion weakens that belief. Winning the inner competition is about consistency, the daily repetition of small victories over comfort and doubt. When you understand that the only real opponent is your own mind, your perspective on success becomes peaceful. You no longer rush, compare, or envy others because you realize that their journey has nothing to do with yours. You start operating from a place of quiet confidence because your focus is entirely on internal refinement. This is what separates professionals from amateurs, masters from beginners. The amateur constantly looks outward, wondering how to match others. The master looks inward, knowing that self-control is the ultimate form of power. The more control you gain over your thoughts, the more control you gain over your actions, and the more predictable your results become. The mind is both a weapon and a trap. If you let it run on autopilot, it will create barriers built up from fear and doubt. But if you train it, it becomes your greatest ally. The training happens in the moments of frustration, boredom, and failure. When nothing seems to work, that's when the mind tries to escape. It whispers that maybe you're not ready, maybe it's too late, maybe it's not worth it. That's the test. Every time you ignore that voice and continue the process, you reshape your mental structure. You prove to yourself that you can lead your mind instead of being led by it. That is the essence of mastery, the ability to direct thought consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. This inner battle doesn't end because growth doesn't end. The more you evolve, the more refined your challenges become. Each new level demands a higher level of mental discipline. The same mindset that got you to one stage of success may not be enough for the next. That's why internal competition is constant. It's not about reaching a point of perfection. It's about continuous evolution. You outgrow old fears only to meet new ones. You overcome one limitation only to face another. But each victory builds strength, awareness, and calm. Eventually, you stop fearing the struggle because you recognize it as part of your own expansion. The true reward of competing with your mindset is freedom. Freedom from the emotional turbulence that controls most people's decisions. You no longer depend on validation, praise, or comparison. You act because you are aligned with your purpose, not because you want recognition. This internal independence makes you powerful because nothing outside you can disturb your stability. The opinions, reactions, and progress of others lose their ability to affect you. You become focused, disciplined, and grounded in your own path. Success stops being something to chase and becomes something that unfolds naturally as a result of who you are becoming. The real victory is not when you beat others, but when you master yourself. Mastering the inner game is the foundation of every outer victory. The external world responds to the energy, discipline, and mindset that you project from within. Many people spend their entire lives trying to control circumstances, outcomes, and opportunities without realizing that all real power comes from mastering the self. The results you experience are not random, they are direct reflections of your mental state. If you carry confusion inside, your decisions will be scattered. If you carry fear, your actions will be hesitant. If you carry clarity, confidence, and belief, your path will align with those qualities. Success and failure are not products of luck, but outcomes of alignment. The one who masters the inner world naturally wins the outer one because their mind no longer works against them. The mind becomes a tool instead of a trap. Mastering the inner game begins with understanding your thoughts. Every belief you hold about yourself, about money, about success creates a filter that shapes how you perceive the world. Most people operate from beliefs they never question, beliefs formed through fear, failure, or other people's opinions. Those beliefs limit what they think is possible. The inner game is about rewriting those limits. It's about replacing self-doubt with awareness and replacing emotional reactions with calm decision-making. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them, you create distance between your emotions and your actions. That space gives you control. You start to recognize that the only thing standing between you and your goals is not the environment, but your interpretation of it. The outer world mirrors your internal state like a reflection. If you feel scarcity within, you will see lack everywhere. If you cultivate abundance in your thoughts, opportunities start appearing where you once saw none. The shift always starts inside. That's why chasing external validation, approval, or results never leads to fulfillment. You can temporarily win, but without inner alignment, you'll always return to confusion. Mastering the inner game means building an internal foundation that doesn't shake with circumstances. When the market changes, when people criticize, when things fall apart, you remain stable. You no longer react emotionally because your sense of control doesn't depend on what happens outside. You become grounded in your process, and from that grounding, consistent results emerge naturally. This mastery is not built through motivation, it's built through awareness and repetition. Awareness helps you recognize when your thoughts drift toward fear or doubt, and repetition helps you retrain your responses. Every time you choose calm over panic, patience over impulse, discipline over distraction, you strengthen the inner structure that supports your success. It's not one big decision that builds mastery. It's 1,000 small ones made consciously. Over time, you begin to act from clarity automatically. You no longer need to remind yourself to stay disciplined. It becomes who you are. That's the point where success starts feeling effortless because your mindset and actions are finally in harmony. The inner game also involves learning emotional neutrality. The untrained mind swings between extremes. Excitement when things go well and frustration when they don't. But emotions are temporary and reacting to them only creates instability. The one who can remain neutral gains the advantage because neutrality allows clear observation. You can't see truth when your emotions distort it. Mastering the inner game means not letting emotions dictate your judgment. It doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop being controlled by feelings. When you lose, you learn. When you win, you stay humble. You no longer ride the highs and lows because you operate from the center. That center is where power lies. Every challenge you face is a test of your inner game. The universe constantly mirrors your mindset through circumstances. When you feel resistance, it's not the world blocking you, it's your own beliefs showing you where you still need growth. Instead of fighting challenges, learn to observe what they are teaching you. If you keep facing the same type of failure, It's not coincidence, it's feedback. It's your inner world asking for correction. Once you adjust your perspective, the external pattern dissolves. Mastery is not about controlling outcomes, it's about controlling your internal reactions to them. When you remain calm in uncertainty, when you stay patient under pressure, when you keep executing even without visible results, you demonstrate true mastery of the inner game. The mind loves comfort, but mastery lives in discomfort. Growth happens when you deliberately step beyond familiar limits. Every time you do something uncomfortable, whether it's taking a risk, admitting a mistake, or maintaining discipline when you don't feel like it, you expand your internal capacity. The stronger your internal capacity becomes, the more easily you handle challenges that would break others. The goal is not to eliminate struggle, but to strengthen your ability to face it without losing focus. Life doesn't become easier, you become stronger. That strength is the essence of mastering the inner game. Another part of this mastery is self-trust. You cannot win externally if you doubt yourself internally. Doubt causes hesitation, and hesitation breaks momentum. To trust yourself, you must honor your word to yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you build internal credibility. Every time you break that promise, you weaken it. The mind learns through evidence. If you constantly abandon your own commitments, your mind stops believing your intentions. But if you consistently act with integrity, your mind begins to align with your words. That alignment builds confidence, not the kind that comes from praise, but the kind that comes from proof. You trust yourself because you've demonstrated that you can be relied on. Mastering the inner game also means mastering focus. Distraction is one of the greatest enemies of success. The modern world constantly pulls attention outward, notifications, comparisons, noise. But focus is power. The more focused your attention, the stronger your results. The inner game trains you to direct focus intentionally. You stop reacting to everything that seeks your attention and start choosing what deserves it. You learn to guard your mental energy because you understand that what you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, they grow. If you focus on process and solutions, progress accelerates. Control over focus is control over life. The beauty of mastering the inner game is that once it's built, it influences every area of your existence. Whether it's relationships, business, trading, health, or creativity, the same principles apply. A disciplined mind produces stability. A calm mind produces clarity. A confident mind produces result. External success becomes a mirror of internal order. You no longer chase opportunities because your mindset attracts them. People feel the energy of someone who's internally balanced. They trust it, they follow it, and they respond to it. Your presence itself becomes an asset. In time, you realize that mastering the inner game is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming aware. It's not about suppressing emotions, but understanding them. It's not about controlling the world, but controlling how you respond to it. The more you master your mind, the more freedom you experience. Freedom from fear, from doubt, from external influence. You begin to move with certainty because your decisions are grounded in self-awareness, not emotion or pressure. Success stops being a chase and becomes a reflection of who you are. The outer game takes care of itself because the inner game is already won.